Was about this is the numbers out there which is flashing. If you see the transfers out and if you see the exits, they have a large amount. There are more exits than actually there were hires. And if you see the transfers out, a lot of transfers out as compared to transfers in. And that's where I'm going to take you, where we ended the year at 298. So when we started the year, it was 317, and we have ended up at 298. Now I know what you may be thinking. You may be thinking, okay, so this gives us room to hire more people, to hire more sales manager. But I want to walk you through a different kind of a scenario where we want to talk about how do we rethink our hiring process. And that's where I'll take you. So when we look at the additions, and we have the 196 and 47, 99, 49, we look at the additions to sales managers. We look at the very first aspect, which is hires. And in the beginning of the year, as we start in January, a lot of the time that's the appraisal, that's the new cycle which starts, that's the sales cycle that starts. All these numbers are highlighted. In every quarter, the numbers are very high. And as we go along towards the next following months, so every quarter there's a lot of new hires that keep coming up, but then there's a lot of people also, the number starts dipping down. And if you notice very, very carefully, you see the number dipping down right up to the end of the last quarter. Which takes us into the next phase, which you see, that's the last dip that you see out there in the last quarter. This is primarily happening because this is where the managers are looking forward for promotions. They're looking forward to be escalated to the next level, but it's not happening. And when it doesn't happen, then people start leaving the organization as well. That's when the new hires also, we put a little bit of a pause on the new hire. Let me take you into the promotions now. In the flip side, now you see there's a lot of promotions happening in the last quarter, which is good because the appraisal time has happened, we've identified new successors, and then we start putting them onto the next level. However, there is a lot from the senior managers that comes across, and there's always a little bit of a conflict, tussle, who do we promote, who do we stop, on what basis should we move across, which actually then starts taking in a lot of transfers as well, internal transfers that take place. And you see a typical line that moves across out there with a large dip in the August month in the mid-year, which I'll take you now to the reductions. And if you see the reductions, if we go, you find a lot of outgoing transfers and attrition that takes place. Out here, again, we'll see the same trend. It starts again in January, in the beginning of the first quarter, and then it moves up even in the exits. So whereas we have like 200 sales managers exiting the organization, which is a large number, by far a very large number. And if you see out there, it's about like 35, and as we go dipping across, that's when we have the outgoing transfers happening at the beginning of the quarter, where we started off in January, it's high, and as we go through the full year, there is a lot of exits happening somewhere in the month of November. You see that? What could be the reason why we have so many numbers hitting in November? Any thoughts? And then maybe you get some thoughts from people, and people start sharing something like that. Exactly. So you also now validate what they say. Then exactly, this is what we were coming at. In the month of November, those are the people who have joined, and they're looking forward for some promotions. And when it doesn't happen, that's when the time they start exiting the company. So actually we are having a revolving door in the organization, where we are also hiring, but at the same time we are having more exits than the hiring process. Now I know you're thinking again, how do we increase the numbers of hiring? This is my recommendation. If you look at this whole process, if you look at the back picture out here, one recommendation I would like to make out here is that probably we can also consider that maybe we introduce a mid-cycle in between for appraisals to identify who are the people who can actually move forward, so that they stick in the door and look forward. Else we have them throughout the year, but at the end of the year, if they're not getting through, then they leave the organization. And all our energy spent in hiring is lost. Instead, we can focus on internal resources and actually scale them up on that level, so that we focus on all our attention within internal promotions itself. So these are the couple of recommendations that I would like to make here. Increase hires to hire from within the organization. This could include fast tracking a lot of internal transfers for slow down the attrition rate into sales manager positions. Adding a second annual promotion in between, so that people stay motivated to carry on and look forward, and they know where they have to go, including post correction in their career ladder. Introducing any approval process for any off cycle promotions that can take place. I know this may be not in the policy, but we can always have a special approval given from the senior leaders to consider the very high performer employee who's out there. This also motivates the other employees to reach up to that level. So actually we are increasing the benchmark by also stating that we are flexible to move people up the ladder if they're really very high performers. This is the summary of it. If you have any ideas, are more than welcome to also add them out here. And anything we want, we can always discuss and determine our next course of action. Just to summarize everything, we put it up in a slideshow like this way. Maybe we put everything together like this, and I can send it a couple of the people who were not present in this meeting, so all of us are aligned, and I'll wait for your next sorts of action so that we can now take things forward. Thank you so much.